Dear Mr. President of the Human Rights Council, Honorable Presidents and Prime Ministers, Ministers, United Nations High Commissioners for Human Rights, ladies and gentlemen, this year, 2023, marks the 75th year which draws together members of the global family, proclaiming the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. We recall that the declaration came about after the ravages of the terrible wars at that time, and the world was resolute to ensure that peace and rights are advanced. Tyranny and excesses of some individuals and states against fellow human beings must not continue to plague our communities. The ability of human beings and nations to unleash their destruction and disrespect to humanity must be discouraged, and we must reaffirm the promise in the Universal Human Rights Declaration to not allow this to reoccur. And so, we celebrate together our commitment to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in its 75th year, but we must remain vigilant and remind ourselves that much more can be done. Mr. President, Vanuatu remains firm and resolute to recognize the inherent dignity and of equal and inalienable rights of all of us, the foundation of freedom, justice, and peace. In so doing, as Vanuatu commits and affirm our faith in fundamental human rights, we are cognizant of the dignity and worth of each person and equal rights for all. But 75 years after our Universal Declaration of Human Rights, ironically, many aspects of our world and behavior remain the same. We observe the continuance of preying on the weak and the poor, and on communities who are experiencing the domination and indignity of colonization, and peoples and individuals suffering grave violations of human rights due to natural resource extraction and profit-driven environmental destruction. It is unfortunate that despite a common resolve, a disjointed consideration of rights seems evident. Mr. President, I draw particular attention to human rights impacted by climate change. The ravaging effects of global warming have become existential for Vanuatu and for many peoples across the planet. As economies are ravaged, livelihoods decimated, and lives lost, it is clear that the climate crisis is a human rights crisis. I am encouraged by the recent UN COP27 cover decision, which stipulates that states should, when taking action to address climate change, respect, promote, and consider their respective obligations on human rights. But what are our human rights and climate change obligations? Today, states continue through their acts and omissions to cause significant harm to the climate system and other parts of the environment. Vanuatu sees past and present greenhouse gas emissions as a breach of the rule of existing international law which regulates the conduct of states' relation to activities that contribute to climate change and its adverse effects. From the smallest village to the global stage, the rule of law is all that stands between peace and stability, climate resilience, and catastrophe. In support of a rules-based international order, Vanuatu will ask the United Nations International Court of Justice to review international law having particular regard to the Charter of the United Nations, that international covenants on civic and political rights and on economic, social, and cultural rights and other international legal instruments and principles, to answer a simple question: what are the legal consequences for states when they have caused significant harm to the climate system and other parts of the environment with respect to peoples and individuals of the present and future generations? As the United Nations principal legal organ, the International Court of Justice can provide this clarity as a key part of its mandate and provide us all with a non-contentious advisory opinion on what international law already says on what states must do and not do to prevent significant harm to the climate and people. An ICJ advisory opinion will clarify our collective obligations under a range of international instruments well beyond the Paris Agreement, so that we can all do more to protect the rights of humanity. Called for by youth in the Pacific Islands and young people across the globe, and with support from nations of the global North and of the global South, it is time for the United Nations International Court of Justice to provide guidance on the legal links between climate and human rights obligations. Vanuatu acknowledges you all and the High Commissioner drawing attention to ensuring that climate change issues are mainstreamed into human rights conversations. And so, Mr. President, today I strongly call on all United Nations members to join Vanuatu and others to adopt in the incoming weeks a United Nations General Assembly resolution for an advisory opinion of the International Court of Justice on the obligations of states in respect of climate change and human rights. Your collective support is called for in the resolution, which is on the right side of history. 75 years since the Declaration of Universal Human Rights, we must stay true to our collective commitment to defend human rights, champion the rule of international law, and demonstrate action on climate change. This is our moment of moral clarity, nations having freedom, assured that our rights, our human rights to existence, now threatened by climate change, are not eroded and taken away from our future generations. I thank you all, and may God bless you.